Shalom and good day all, this is Tahilum29 back again for another anime review, and in this anime review I'll be covering the second volume of Free the Final Stroke, or it's basically part 2 anyway, of Free the Final Stroke. So what I'll do first is I'll move into the area of the synopsis, which says this: after his first appearance on the competitive world stage, Haruka is held captive by his swimming of the unmistakable champion Albert, and then feels lost in his way of what do you swim for. Now that's something that Albert himself actually brought up in relation to the character of Haruka, and with a little bit more in relation to the synopsis, to which there is left. So after I complete the synopsis, I'll be making a start on the film, to which once I start on the film, I'll probably start covering it in 10-minute increments. As I start to draw towards the hour mark, it will be covered in 15 minutes. So completing the rest of the synopsis, Haruka begins to sink to the bottom of the murky water as he struggles on his own, pushed on by a relentless urge in his heart. Haruka purposely puts himself through a rigorous and intensive training, devoting himself to practice in his heart. Haruka knows that he's pushing himself beyond his limits, both physically and mentally. His friends can do nothing but watch over and have faith in him. Memory of Albert's cold, dry swimming keeps replaying in his mind. I have to get faster. I have to become stronger. I have to compete against Albert again. Haruka unleashes his stroke to cut through the heavy and indifferent water. His friends draw closer to watch. What scenery will Haruka see at the end of this struggle? Alright, another thing that I'll add to this is the cast of characters that will make their appearances in this particular volume. And in this, of course, we see Haruka Nanase, we see Makoto Takibana, we see Rin Matsuka, we see the return of Ikuya and Asahi. Of course, one of my favorite characters being Nagisa, who I really enjoy his character within the story. We see Rei, we see Hiyori, Hiyori, Sosuke. We have Kirishima. We also have Serizawa, or now Serizawa. We have a list of other people, to which this is going to take a bit of a while to read through. We have the return of Nitori, or Nitori. We also have Momo returning. Kisumi, Go, Romeo, Shizu, Ayumu. We have Goro, Ryuji, Mikhail, Albert, who plays a big part in the story, Kaid Kinjo, Sejiro, Izuzu, Takuya. Of course, we have Kazuki, Shoto, and last but not least, the character of Tauru. So now I'll start watching the film, and after the first 10 minutes of this film has begun, I'll give a bit of a short talk of what happens in that first 10 minutes, and then as we draw to, say, the hour-minute mark, I'll start to change things to 15 minutes. Starting now. Alright, just completing the first 10 minutes of this film. In as we start to move into the beginning of the events that take place in this particular part of the film, we do get a bit of a recap of like some of the events that take place, especially the recap between Rin and Haru, what happens there. But we also get to see some extended information brought to us here, and this information sort of like centers around the other characters that make up the story. We get to catch up with the character of Akuya and Hiyori, to which they're working as they also talk about the events that took place in Sydney, Australia, for the World Championship there. And we also catch up with other characters, and we also learn that it's also time for Nagisa and Rei to sort of like move into the area of college, and we start to see that mainly by movement. So we get a show, we get a lot of show don't tell in regards to that, and we start to see them make their way to their perspective or their choice colleges. Whilst this is occurring, we do get a bit of a nice music intro, as we get and this music intro is sort of like used to give us a bit of a recap of like the rest of the characters that are in the story and some of the things that they're talking about, to which will lead on into the next part of this story. Alright, I will now watch the next 10 minutes and get back to you after that. So as the next 10 minutes passes, in this time period of the 10 minutes, I ended up watching a little bit over, so probably about the 11-minute mark here of what I ended up watching. So in the first half of this next 10 minutes, we do get quite a bit focused on the character of Haru Nanasi, and we start off with a little bit of video footage, which is coming from Nagisa, and then from there we end up moving into a bit of a flashback, and we get to see basically sort of like early Rin from baby stages to I guess elementary to eventually approaching his high school age. Whilst this is occurring, it's sort of like setting things up in sort of like a bit of a cinema as they're watching over their life. Not only that, whilst we sort of like see some of these cinema scenes, we get to see Makato and Nagisa together, sort of like watching a movie. And in this, we also sort of like get to see a bit of a flashback in regards to, say, Rin and Haruka. And not only that, they also try to use a bit of a film, which also sort of reminds me of something very similar Sentai-like. I might be wrong, but it was definitely interesting with them using that in the story, because that in the film which they're watching with these Sentai-like characters, they learn that these characters are also having a bit of a fight, but they actually perform better when they work together. As things draw a little bit towards the middle to the end of this next area of the 10 minutes, we get to see what is happening with the character of Rin. We also notice that Sosuke makes an appearance, to which he helps Haruka out, and he also explains to Haru that, okay, he too also had some fights with Rin in the past, and he's also hoping that time will basically heal the wounds of what is happening between them. One thing that is sort of driving, or I guess hindering, some of Haruka's growth is that he'll basically be left alone, and loneliness comes in and sort of like ruins loneliness, isolation, and also basically not a very strong support system, even though he's had good friends that have supported him along the way. We also get to see like a bit of a scene when Haruka is sort of like watching sort of like a memory of himself on the screen, and he wants to sort of like try to jump to interact with that memory. And with that, realizing that he can't interact with that memory, it sort of like hangs in the mind. Moving into the next 10 minutes, we start to see Rin and also Asahi catch up. So I'll stop here and see where these next 10 minutes takes us. So after we see Rin catch up with Asahi, from moving into the next sort of 10 minutes, we do get a catch up with basically a lot of the supporting characters, and also what's happening there. So we finally learn to which college that Rei is going to. We also learn that which college that Nagisa Hazuki is going to. And with that, we also get to see what's also happening with like some of the other characters. Then not long after we get to see the colleges that they're going to, there's a bit of a reunion of sorts with as we get to see him like catch up and have a bit of a bowling game together. So we get to see Nitori return, Momo return. We also get to see Makoto return, and they talk about some of the things that are happening in regards to, say, Haru, Rin, whatever else. As we start to move a little bit further in this time period of the 10 minutes, we also get to catch up on the training in relation to Haruka and also Rin. And we see that Haruka is actually putting everything into his swimming to the point that it is absolutely exhausting his body, to which his coach talks to him about it. And we also realize that the same thing is also occurring in regards to Rin. And we do also get something covering this particular area, to which we have like the coaches talking to each other. So now it's time for me to watch the next 10 minutes and see where things go from here. Oh, and I forgot to bring up that Albert has gone to the press, and not only has he gone to the press, he mentioned that after his next swimming competition, he's planning on retiring, and this too is also playing upon some of the main characters within the story. So as we start to move into the 30 to 40 minute mark, we have Haru's teacher speaking with Rin in regards to a situation as to what is happening around him, and he basically spits it out straight as to say, all right, if you're experiencing these things, tell him directly instead of like having it go through me. Whilst this is occurring, they're having a bit of a fight. We also have Makoto there, and not long after that, they actually go to search for Haru. Upon their searching, it's actually Rin who ends up finding where Haru is, and we realize that they're actually at a bit of a night pool. And when Makoto turns up, they decide to have a bit of a race. Now, the race is mainly between Haru and Rin, to which after they have their race, they do make a bit of amends in regards to what has happened before. And they also fess up to a couple of things that have sort of like been holding them back, but has also helped them grow along the way too. As it draws closer towards the end of these 10 minutes, we get to move into a bit of a flashback, to which this flashback will probably carry over into the 40 to 50 minute mark. I don't know for how long for, but we get to see a bit of a flashback revolving around Nagisa and Makoto, as they learn that there was actually one time in an event to which Nagisa did actually lose to some older students that were involved in swimming, and with it, it also had a bit of a consequence or an effect on him, and he is only like so much the character was able to deal with. So I'll just stop it there, and I'll start to move into watching to the 40 to 50 minute mark right now, and talk about what happens afterwards. So as we move into the 40 to 50 minute mark, the flashback sort of continues as Rin, Makato, and Haru look upon the past, and also some of the things that have taken place in the past, and also how they've also grown as characters, especially Haru, and how he's grown and improved, even in his own style, in his own swimming style, which is freestyle. So this sort of goes on for about 5 minutes, and the next 5 minutes after, and not long after that, Makato gets the great idea of having both Rin and Haru training together under their coaches under the same roof. And I must admit, let me say something. Makato can be a really good mediator for certain things, and whilst we're also looking at things in the past, we get to see some of the things of how Makato and Nagisa has also played an important role as well. To which I feel like Nagisa would probably be a really good counselor of sorts. Whether that actually plays out in the end of the story or not, I don't know. So moving into, say, the next 5 minutes after that, we move into a bit of a training montage, to which this montage covers like quite a number of characters, but we also get like a small flashback in regards to, say, like the mentors of the students that they're teaching, and also sort of like how far that they have come to where they are now. To which, when we do sort of like finish off at the 50-minute mark, we catch up with Akuya, Asahi, and also Sosuke meeting up together. I'll now stop it here because now it's time to move into the 50 to 60 minute mark, to which after the 60-minute mark, it will then be moved into things that will be happening every 15 minutes. So as I finish off watching the 50 to 60 minute mark, we end up seeing a bit of an invitational tournament taking place in Japan, to which we get to catch up with a number of the cast members that make their appearance in this, from Rei to Nagisa, Akuya, and a whole list of others, including Haruka, Rin, Sosuke. List continues. So basically, some of the cast members that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this that make an appearance. Whilst this is occurring, we do get to see quite a number of, swimming tournament montages take place within the story, to which not long after this, we get to see a bit of a party take place, or a bit of a reunion of sort of like all of the swimmers together, enjoying a bit of a time out eating together. And it's really nice seeing all of the cast of characters have a bit of a reunion of sorts. And we can sort of see that Nagisa is sort of like planning something as well with the help of Rei. We also get the catch up of with Haru's coach, to which Haru's coach catches up with someone he knows, which is Kinju Kaede, and Kinju Kaede makes a bit of a point that it looks like Haru might be reaching his sort of like his last time to press to his limit at the age he is now. And not long after that, we do get a bit of a small talk between Kinju and also Haru as to sort of like, why does he keep on swimming? In other words, what is the key thing that sort of like helps to motivate him in his swimming? and Haru reflects upon the importance of his friends, of how they have helped him sort of like reach the spot he has reached presently. Alright, now it's time for me to start covering the 15-minute marks after this. Alright, so this is covering from the hour to the hour and 15 to 16-minute mark, and in this time period, we have seen Haru perform in his swimming, to which not long after his swimming, he sort of like ended up being taken to a bit of a medical bed of sorts, as he was taken there by Sosuke and a couple of others. And whilst this is occurring in this sort of like invitational tournament, which will lead them through their trip to Athens, the idea of the next thing that sort of like is beginning to take place is the relays, or the relay events, to which we get to see Kinjo Kaede also play a part in speaking up for Haru to be one of those people to get through, sort of like for the next event. We also see like another a list of other swim members also speak up for Haru as well, and in this they sort of like become a bit of a foundational support for Haru, which is something that he's definitely needed in his life. So as the events take place for this particular event, we get to see the relay take place and also the teams that are also taking place in the event. We also get to see how Akuya performs, other characters that are performing in this relay, just to also help pushing themselves to get Haru, also to take the place of the place in the freestyle. We do get some flashbacks as well with some of the characters from Kinjo, Makoto, and a couple of others that show up within this time period, until eventually we do catch up once again with Haru, who is sort of like now in the bed getting more rest, because in this time of the story he's actually been putting not only his mental in quite a lot of pressure, but also with that he does have a little bit of ease compared to what happened earlier in the story, to which he did end up making amends with Rin, which I think really played a really big part in this story. Also in this time period of the 15 minutes, we get to see that Nagisa is sort of like making friendship bands, to which he gives away to like members of the Iwatobi Swim Club and also other members who are there to support not only Haru, but also the people who are pushing to get to be representatives in the qualifying events, to make it to the Athens tournament. So after the next 15 minutes, I'll talk about what happened in the next 15 minutes between the 15 to 30 minute mark, or the hour 15 and 30 minute mark. So as the next 15 minutes end up finishing up, so between the 1 hour 15 to the 1 hour 30, we finally get to see the main relay take place within the story. Now, I'm wondering if there might be some post-credit stuff, because especially in the last part of this 15 minutes, we do get to see some credits. So I'll talk about what's taken place before that, consisting of the relay race, to which we finally get to see who the four will be competing in the relay race. And yes, we will get to see Haru eventually finally go up against the character of Albert. And in this we get to see Sosuke. It begins off with Sosuke, then after that it's Rin, then it's correction. It's Sosuke, Ikuya, Rin, then Haru. And we get to see them sort of like performing their best in the story. And last but not least, it moves to the character of Haru, and he finally gets to race up against the character of Albert. And Albert finally realizes why it is certain people want to actually go up against the character of Haru, because when Haru wants to go up against his opponent, Haru wants his opponent to give their all. And in other words, give their all, don't hold back. Because when he performs in his freestyle swimming, he wants to give it everything he's got, like from beginning to end, no holds barred, and that is what it means to be free for him. So I'll now watch the last, and not only that, as we start to move towards the end of the part of the 15 minutes, we hear something of someone retiring. It sort of indicates that it might actually be the character of Haru, but I'll see how I go. After I go watching the last 15 minutes, which will lead us to the 1 minute 30 to 1 minute 40 minute mark. Oh, and I forgot something else as well. After Haru competes in the relay, we see him ending up collapsing, to which all of his friends run down to where he is to find out what's happening with him and if he's alright. And that's sort of like really good, because it's like another part in regards to his reunion with his friends that have helped him get as far as he can. Alright, so after moving into the last 15 minutes, which moves us to the 1:30 to the 1:45 to 1:46 mark, we do get a lot of credits take place within this time period, and it's sort of like showing a lot of pictures that have been used within the series, along with sort of like a number of group photos or group character photos or group character pictures of the people who make up the story. As soon as that finishes, we end up moving into the post-credit scene, like the proper post-credit scene. And in this post-credit scene, we learn that Haru has basically taken a break from swimming. He's gone into the area of rehab. We also get to catch up with a number of the other characters that have made up this series, from Nagisa, Rei, and all of the other cast of characters. We learn that Rin himself is in Hungary, or in the country of Hungary, to which we know that he's catching up with Nitori, and they have a bit of a conversation. We know that we also learn that Makato also finds Haru in Hungary as well, to which they end up eventually reuniting. And we're then moved to a bit of a scene which leads us up to the Athens event, and it's just left us right there at the end. A full-on cliffhanger ending for this story. And one thing it sort of leaves you to see with the character of Haru, it leaves a bit of a message for the character himself. Even if you become an ordinary person, keep swimming. And I thought that was really like a really good supportive message for him. So jumping into the area of the afterthoughts, I must admit, in some essence, the looking at the beginning part of this story, so the second act of this story, within the first act, I was sort of expecting something that Nagisa might have been doing, something to sort of like help Rin and Haru reunite. That didn't turn out to be in the story, but it was still quite interesting as to how that turned out. Then we move to the next area as we get to see the training montage of like all of the cast of characters that were training for the invitational tournament as to who would be representing Japan in the tournament. And then after that, we do eventually get to see the relay take place. We also see some of the things that are affecting Haru, not only physically but also mentally. But also, this story really picks up as we get to see how Haru gets to finish his race finally up against the character of Albert. To which, from that, we get to see him, I guess, make a friend to someone he didn't expect to make a friend with, considering how their styles slightly differ. Then jumping last but not least into, I guess, the last quarter or the last part of the act, to which we get to see how things take place at the end of the story, and realizing, yes, they do eventually make it to Athens. And we also learn that Haru does end up going to the event to also participate against his new friend Albert and also other friends that have helped him get to where he is in. Another thing that I want to bring up too is that I really quite enjoyed the soundtrack for this last movie in the series. I also enjoyed the part with this series, especially in the credit scene. They did give a thanks to sort of like all of the people who've played a part in making the series come to be, including the fan base. So that was fantastic, and I want to say a big thanks even to the people who actually put the series of three together, because I wouldn't mind reading this sports manga and see if there was anything missed or not missed at all. So jumping into the next thing, and that is the area of the racing for the main characters in this particular movie. I'd have to say that the main characters would have to be Makaso, Haru. In other words, the cast of characters that made up the original series, but also extended series. So, in other words, season 2 and also season 3. They, in a way, became not only the main characters, but also the supporting characters, to which I give it an 8 out of 10. In the next thing, of the area of the animation, I really quite enjoyed the animation, though there were some parts that I think it could have been a little bit better. Apart from that, it really played well to the story, to which I'll give the animation just a 7.5 out of 10. Next is the area of the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack in this was really good from beginning to end for this particular movie, to which I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And in regards to this story, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Well, until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.
Go